Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Friday night paint along. Welcome to Art Prof. We are a global art party. Let's get into this piece that I started during the painting marathon. It's finally dry. So happy about that. Working wet was very difficult. So finally today, I'm going to feel like I can really start painting without having to deal with all of the mushiness. And remember, everybody, we would love it for you to post anything you make during this session in the Discord in our Art Alongs channel. And I will share during the live stream anything you post in there. Here is my palette. We've got titanium white, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, viridian, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, cadmium red light, alizarin crimson, and burnt umber. I'm going to just take a minute and look at this piece, figure out where I'm going. Right now, what's bothering me is all of these yellow highlights feel too similar. And I feel like there's too much red, or rather, I need to beef up some of the greens so that the red that is there does feel more brilliant. I feel like something like that, a brighter red. A lot of this is all very maroon, and I think I'm going to lean more heavily into the cadmium red light. Tell me in the chat, what have you been working on this week? Or rather, show me in the Discord. Posts in the Art Alongs channel. I'm happy to share what everybody is up to. I think I want to, well, let's take a look at the reference. Okay. You know something? I had the other reference, which was super, super bright red. But the issue with this one is I do think the red flattens everything. However, what I am noticing is that there's not as much highlight down here. I think I may need to darken this so the highlight is more isolated to the upper section of the face. Yeah, let's do that. I think I'm going to stick with the red one. While I'm getting colors mixed, tell me in the chat what you've been up to this week. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? Okay, I think I got it. Cadmium red light glaze. Let's just do that for a little bit. Keep it real simple and see what happens. Sorry, I've got a very squeaky chair. I need to get a new one. I'm using my kids because my other one totally died. Okay, I'm taking right now, this is Gamblin's solvent-free medium. I always put it in the squeeze jar. And I'm just going to put some of it onto the palette. And let's just see what happens when I do a cadmium red light glaze. And tell me in the comments what you've been up to this week. Oh, I like, oh, no. Oh, I love dry painting. It feels so good. Oh, see, this is the thing that I was really after that I couldn't show you. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, I need to put this in the Discord for you guys to see better because, oh, it's the glaze thing is just magical. Tell me in the chat, do you use glazing in your work? Or if you prefer to paint more opaquely. I would like to do a piece that's entirely a glaze, but I feel like that would just be super time consuming, and that's enough for me to say, ugh, I don't want to do that. Actually, I need a bigger brush. This brush is too small. We're going to try this one. It's a lot bigger, and this is one of the soft synthetic bristle brushes. Wow, I have to use a lot of medium. I was not expecting that. Okay. Oh, that feels good. Oh, nice. I'm so happy. This is the part of the painting process I am a very big fan of. Once things dry, it's like the world is your oyster. Although the cadmium red light, ooh, oh my god, that was, yeah, that's too much. I do not want that. So remember, tell me in the comments what you've been up to this week, and it's okay if you haven't made any artwork at all. I was on a art club voice session this week, and there were a bunch of people who came and said, well, I don't really have anything to show, to talk about, or critique. And I was like, coming here counts. Coming and having a conversation with other artists, that's another form of how you can work. Especially with glazing, I like to keep my rag handy. It's so easy to get rid of the glaze if I don't like it. Oh, let me do a little bit of construction work on the nose, because the nose got a little ignored last time, and it needs a lot more articulation. Right now, not a lot going on. I definitely want to start adding some smaller strokes. During the painting marathon, I was doing a lot of just big broad strokes. And while I don't think I'm ready to go full like detail, I definitely think I deserve to do some bigger strokes. Oh, that's better. I think he was looking too magenta before. The cadmium red is really helping me push more yellow into the portrait. See, glazing is just so freaking easy. It's like you don't have to put that much effort into it, and it just looks good right away. One of my favorite things about glazing. Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah, I think the nose and the mouth, they both need a lot more detail. And I also told myself today that I am not going to make everything dark, because that's what I started doing with the figure painting, and I regret it now. Here, there's too much glazing, so I just go in with my rag, and you can actually spread it around if you want. You don't have to just do it with a brush, but I find that very handy. Yeah, that's better. I feel like I was going for more of a yellowish red, and I think right now the overall image, it leans too purple for what I want to do. Remember, if you have a question you would like to ask me, please write the word question in all caps, and that will help me see your answer more quickly. Basically, I'm just shifting the color with the glaze, and what that does is I don't have to remix things. So glazing is really excellent when you're just trying to tint a color, as opposed to having to just start from scratch and paint over everything. Yeah, there's almost no red in the hands. The hands, I don't know, they ended up really pasty last time. They definitely need some more intense colors to feel like they relate a lot better to what's happening in the rest of the piece. Wow, this feels so easy. The hard part is the beginning when you are really trying to do all the heavy lifting. Today is so much easier. I mean, that's why that initial start of a painting, it's rough trying to figure out where everything goes. Oh, that's so fun. Oh, I'm so happy, everybody. This is great. All right, let's see what people are saying in the chat. Oops. I'm trying to fight my mic stand, which doesn't like me very much right now. Somebody did get me the mic stand that's on my wish list, but I have not had the time to put it back together. Come on. Jennifer says, I officially have my first painting in a shop. Oh, that's so exciting. That's a big first, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing that with us. Spider is asking, can you use liquid for glazing? Absolutely. Liquid is fantastic for glazing. I'm a huge fan of liquid, and I'm a little sad that I can't use it because it does have fumes. Whatever, it's either that or don't oil paint. Yes, and by the way, everybody, let me show you what's going on in the Discord. You can all see here that oh, look at this. I didn't know that Discord did that. For those of you in the Discord, I did start setting up YouTube events, and this will make it much easier for people in times of the time zone because you can click on the event and then you can see that it tells you exactly what time things are. And the other cool thing is you can also tap interested, and then it will give you a notification, which is really, really nice. Okay, let's go to Art Alongs. All right, so Silver Song is painting the cacao pods. Says, I don't need that yellow, but I don't feel like going back to the studio with it. I know that feeling. So this reference is the cacao pods. I went to a chocolate farm in Hawaii, and you can see Silver Song has done a great job really mapping that out. This is the channel, Art Alongs, and you can see this is the channel where I just posted. This is a close-up. So this is the glaze. And if you want to go really close up, you can see so much detail here. Go to the Discord. This is super fun. I also do things like I post pictures of my palette or the paints that I'm using. And we also have Rats with Shivs. Oh my gosh, this is that painting that they started during the painting marathon. And I remember in the painting marathon, you'd only covered about a third or so, and seeing it almost done. I don't know if you're done yet or not, is amazing. Keep going. I mean, I feel like it's fun for me because I get to see the progress that people are making. Let's see. Lisa, who is also here in the chat, says, I might use this as a background for a Ken portrait. That's another thing, is I will put all the links to the reference photos, although those are also in the video description below. But we can see some of these very mild colors that Lisa is putting down. Jess is working bolder with shadows with short figure drawings. Oh, look at that. So Jess, I talked to you yesterday in the art club voice session, and you guys check this out. Look at this shadow. We've got highlight, shadow core, And we even have a little bit of reflected light. So you are rocking that lighting situation, Jess. We also have Shell working through an acrylic self-portrait on paper. Oh, I love seeing the range of strokes. Like this big stroke over here, and then these cool strokes on top of these earth tones. Oh, I'm so excited to see where that goes. And keep updating us, everybody, because I really enjoy seeing the incremental progress that people are making. So I'm just going to tag you, Anna, because we are in the Art Alongs channel. So the marathons, I don't know how often we'll do those. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to make that happen. But if we do have more art marathons, we do have a channel that is separate for that as well. And yes, thank you, Blue. Hit the like button. We need to get some love from that YouTube algorithm. We also have Neil is asking, how long will this be? I have to go pay the bills. Well, don't hold off on that on my account, but we'll see. I think probably about 2 hours because I have to teach a workshop tomorrow. So I have to make sure I get plenty of rest. Oh, yay. Jessica is here live in the chat. Fantastic. I mean, that's the cool thing. You can be in both. You can be in the chat here in the YouTube, but you can also be in the chat in the Discord. It's super fun. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The 7-day marathon, that's going to have to be an annual thing. The 3-day marathons, I think, would be a lot more reasonable given my schedule. Of course you love the magenta, Anna. And we also have Alexander who says, I use lots of glazes because I'm primarily a watercolorist. I mean, that's basically what watercolor is. It's a series of glazes because getting that thick opacity is pretty much impossible. I mean, I actually did that when I was in high school. I was using watercolors and I treated them like acrylics, and I squeeze out these big blobs and try to thicken it on the painting to make it opaque, and it just looked awful. I don't feel like I really understood the idea of washes until it must have been Andrew Raftery's class. It was sophomore year in art school, and I was in the painting department, and he had us doing a lot of ink wash drawings, and that was a really nice change of pace because freshman year, pretty much all they let us draw with was charcoal, and I was over charcoal in that moment. And I liked the ink wash because it was just so different. It had a brush, it wasn't just your hands, and it had a beautiful flow to it. And so I feel like I learned ink wash at a really good time. All right, let's get back into this. Okay. Ugh, sorry. I really need to get a new chair. Okay. By the way, everybody, I need some video ideas. And ones that are hopefully coming in a nice, neat package, because I do feel that most of my time is spent trying to figure out how to package things for YouTube so it's digestible for people. Especially anatomy, because, oh, you know something else? Somebody sent me the whiteboard. I'm just over the moon to have a whiteboard because that's how I used to teach my anatomy classes at RISD. Is I would have a whiteboard, I'd have a full-size skeleton, and I finally have those two pieces of equipment, and I'm just over the moon about that. I did do a recent anatomy video that was more about just the head and in terms of portraits, but I want to go full out anatomy. Give me your ideas. Because for me, all of the anatomy videos would be called the relationship of the sternocleidomastoid with the pit of the neck, which we know is not palatable for YouTube. So give me some of those titles or different ways I could frame anatomy, because it's complicated. And I think what's hard is to figure out, okay, how do I make it digestible so it's not intimidating, but also how do I give people really in-depth information, stuff that they don't even know exists. I really have to work on the hand, and I really don't want to. But maybe I do need to really solidify. There's this like one really dramatic. Is that a, oh, it's a knuckle. Okay, here we go. That's the knuckle. And let me mix a very deep. I don't really want to do brown because I feel like it'll get very mushy. Maybe I should try alizarin crimson mixed with cadmium red. And yes, I'm sorry I don't have a camera on my palette. I know people were wishing to get that, but I feel like if I add another camera to this setup, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see if I can figure it out. But let's just say this is a setup where I'm like very limited by the space that I can move around in. Oh my gosh, you know what I'm going to do, everybody? Okay, that is the cadmium red light. This is cadmium red light mixed with alizarin crimson. But look at this, I had Viridian today. Why don't I add a little bit of Viridian into the dark red, and let's see if that gives me something. Maybe that's what I've been missing. I haven't been using Viridian very much. It might just end up looking maroon. I'm not adding a huge amount of Viridian. It's just a little bit so I can increase the value. Okay. You can see that is now that red with a little touch of Viridian. It made it a little bit darker. That's what I'm after right now, is I'm after value, not as worried about the other stuff. And today I'm using a lot of medium because I can. And it feels so good. Oh my gosh. Okay. Because I really do see this. This is really like the anchor structurally of that entire area. And it's actually pretty thin. Oh, it should come more down. Oh, shoot. I think I need my rag. Tell me in the comments, who here likes green? I like olive green, which is why I'm surprised I ended up with this background. But in general, green is not a color I like to use in a very dramatic way. I always think of it as a really nice neutral, but maybe I need to start painting with lime green a little bit more. What I'm doing right now, it's a lot of redrawing because it has this bend to it that I need to articulate a lot better. So here, that's a moment of tension that I'm trying to add. And there's another part that's sort of like a vein, but I'm going to leave that out for now. That's really what I'm missing in here, is I don't have something that's really structured, and so that's why I'm trying to add this stuff. Also, there's an elasticity, the stretching of the skin, that I don't think I really have. Here's another thing I do, is I will just take a brush. This brush has no paint on it, and this becomes a nice way to blend a little bit. Oh, I should put a little medium on this. Okay, I'm putting a brush that doesn't have any paint in it, and it's got some medium, and this will make it easier for me to blend that glaze. more in there. I'll be doing a lot of blending today. You haven't really seen me do that because I was so busy trying to put all those things together. And so here I can go in and make this a lot straighter. I think it should still be darker. Oh, that's better. Okay, I like that. Oh, actually, can all of you tell me what's a good book you read recently? Because I finally sat down and really read some of Ari Shapiro's book. It's called The Best Strangers in the World. And I love Ari Shapiro, so I'll read anything he writes. But one of the things he talks about a lot is being in nature as a kid. And I feel like for artists, nature, I think, is a big part of our practice. I mean, if you think about any still life an artist paints, that is very much about nature. Natural forms like the human figure. So tell me in the comments. Okay, we got two things going. Book you've read recently so I can get some recommendations. And also, what's your relationship with nature? Because one of the first things I think about is the nature lab that we had at RISD, which is absolutely one of my favorite places on campus. I always took my classes there, and it's basically a natural history museum, but you can touch everything and you can check things out. You could find a seed pod in the nature lab and check it out. You could check out a butterfly that was in a glass case. I was just, oh my God, loved it there as a student, as a teacher. That's the first place where I really thought about nature as being so closely related to my practice. And now, with all the landscape painting I've been doing, the plein air, I just think it makes sense for artists to have nature be a part of their growth as an artist. And certainly everybody does that differently. But I do consider all those nature drawings I did freshman year, I mean, they're such an integral part of how I learned to draw. So much of my drawing, I think, is very much within nature as a subject. You can see now that solidifies the hand a little bit more. Although I think I really should get into the details of the wrinkles. I mean, this finger's kind of a mess. Let's just do some dark glazes because a lot of it, I think there's just too much green. Even in this pinky, there's a lot of areas where the wrinkles are really breaking things up. Yeah, I'm going to do Viridian for a nice dark Viridian. Let me see what happens. I'm going to just use the Viridian straight. I'm going to do a Viridian glaze for some of these dark spots in here. Because there are definitely a couple areas where, yeah, I need this contrast here. I guess I'm using more colors straight because I know it's all going to get muddy. And for me, it just feels a lot easier to try it that way. All right, and here we're going to do some really deep Viridian. Ooh, I do like that because down here it got too blue. Like there's too much ultramarine down there. I think the Viridian is going to help me. Yeah. And I'm going to take a rag. I'm going to work some of the paint on my brush because there's too much of it in there. So that really pushes this pinky further back. So I really want this finger to disappear. I think it was sticking out too much before. And then a little spot like this. Really letting it be punchy and dramatic. Yeah, I like the Viridian. It's good. I tried Terra Vert and I did not like it. Because Andrew Raftery told me how much he likes Terra Vert. Maybe it's just the tube I got, but it really felt just like raw umber. To me, there wasn't a big difference. I don't know. Maybe I'm bad at understanding colors, but it just wasn't that exciting to me. And I'm also going to trim a lot of things. Like up here, that's a very wide shadow, and it makes it hard to see the compression of things. So I'm coming in here and I'm shaving off some of that area, and then the compression is a lot better. Same thing here. This got super muddy last time. Now I'm going to go back in, carefully add some darks, because these contact points where the fingers are touching the face, they really need to be dramatic. Especially here, there's this one really clear-cut spot. Oh, that feels better. Okay. I feel like I actually have a hold on things right now. All right, let's see what people are saying in the chat. Remember, everybody, use question in all caps if there's something you would like to ask me. Brandon's asking how to deal with the thought of making art, quote, the right way. The way of thinking sometimes stifles my progress to worry about if there's a better way I should be making art. There are two words in there, Brandon, that I would like you to get rid of. The first one is should, and the second one is right. I don't know if anybody's noticed here, but I have certain words that I use when I'm teaching that are substitutes for ways that most people talk about. For example, I don't use the word correct when I'm talking to people about their work. The only time I will is if we're doing linear perspective, because there is a right or wrong in linear perspective. Or sometimes people will say, then you'll get the right outcome. Instead of saying that, I say the outcome that you are looking for. Yes, I have thought this through quite a bit, because I'm just very wary about using those words, because it infers that there is a correct way, that there is a right way, but there really isn't. There's so many gray areas. And really, the way I might recommend that you get that out of your system, get those words out of your system. So if you find yourself saying things like, well, I should, or that's correct and that's wrong, or is it correct or is it wrong, that is a thought that you need to toss out the window because it's only going to make your life more difficult. Olive says, I love how you painted the open eye. It looks amazing. Well, thank you. I do need to work on the eye quite a bit because there's so many specific parts to the lid, and also the eyeball itself doesn't really have the form I want it to have yet. We also have Jessica saying, is the right or wrong avoidance something RISD asks of their professors or something you came to in your career individually? That's me, because I guess I have taught a lot of students who were concerned about the same thing that Brandon is talking about. A lot of the times I was having to talk people down from having to think about it that way. And then I realized, hey, if I just shift to another phrase, another word, that is a way for me to get them further away from having the perception that some of that exists. The one thing, well, not the one thing, but one thing I did really like about RISD is that they give all their professors really academic freedom when it comes to how they run their classes. Certainly there are things to take under consideration, but I taught a class for sophomore illustration majors. It was drawing, and it was supposed to be about space. I think the title of the class was Visualizing Space, but the department head I talked to the first time that I taught it said to me, oh, it can be really architectural specific, measured linear perspective, or you can teach it like Giacometti, which is basically like no linear perspective. But I did feel that it was my responsibility to teach linear perspective because I didn't learn linear perspective in school, and I regretted that I missed out on that experience. Kayak Roar says, my chronic illness makes it hard for me to make art regularly. I remember you mentioned that you have suffered with depression in the past. How did you manage it while making art? For me, a lot of it had to do with the pressure I was feeling being in academia. I think some of you probably have heard that phrase, publish or perish. That was the situation I was in. And I also had really young kids at the time, and it was really hard. I mean, I did it. I don't think I did it to the depth that I wish I had. It's one of those situations where you just do what you have to do. In fact, I was talking to somebody in an art club voice session today, and they were talking to me about having a consistent practice. So tell me in the chat, how many people here would like to have a consistent practice? How many people have one? And how many people know that they can't ever keep that up? That's definitely me. Now, this marathon is scheduled. I have to do it. What happened in academia is that I had exhibitions. I couldn't say, no, I don't feel like it. I had to make the work. For a lot of it, it was just having structures that demanded that work get done, but also because I knew if I stopped working, that was going to destroy me in academia. I don't know if that answers your question. That was my particular situation. It's not the case for a lot of people in that sense. We also have Salinas, who says, my mom works for the Forest Service, so I've been nature immersed since I was a baby. That is so cool. I mean, I've always thought, I mean, this is not my obvious career choice, but I've always thought it'd be really nice to be park ranger because you're in nature all the time. Anna says, when you ask for video ideas, do you mean anatomy videos or any videos? You can do any videos. I'm thinking a lot about anatomy though right now because it's been on my mind for a long time. And I did shoot an anatomy video the other day, but ultimately I pitched it because I realized I wasn't sure what I was trying to say. I know that sounds ridiculous, but when I played it back, I was like, what is the point? Because one thing I've realized about YouTube is you have to have a really solid idea of what is the point I'm trying to make and how am I going to illustrate that. And I really talked myself into this corner that made no sense. So I pitched that idea. Jessica says, maybe show a figure with anatomy mistake and ask, can you tell what anatomy is off? I see so many can we fix this drawing videos with millions of views. Oh, see, I don't spend enough time on YouTube, so I don't really know what people are making. Butter says, how to depict leafless trees. I know I'm not the only one who struggles with them looking goofy. Sometimes it has to do with the type of tree. Some trees I think are just more substantial. There's this wonderful tree here in Utah. It's at, what's that farm called? There's a farm. It's somewhere in Utah. And they have something called a box elder tree. It literally, it looks like a giant knotted face that's got its mouth open. I mean, it's the most bizarre form I've ever seen. Sometimes finding a tree that has something more interesting in terms of form can be helpful. Great questions, everybody. Val says, I try my best to be consistent, but every now and then I feel like I burnt myself out. I can't handle it. What I was saying during the art club voice session is that I do better when I have these intensive work sessions. Like I was doing those fumage pieces and I was like really focused on that for about 2 weeks. I haven't picked it up since a couple months ago. In fact, I haven't really done much of anything except for the painting marathon. But I do better that way. And then I can sort of relax and say, okay, I did that thing. I'm not going to make art for a little while. I'm gonna just not work. And somehow that works better for me. Brian says, I think it's hard to have a consistent practice, probably why people sell their work, because eventually the art clutters up the limited space you have. And when you need to keep things clean. Yes. No, it's not Hog Farm. Oh, I think it's Whistler. Whistler? No, I don't know. Wheeler Farm. That's it. That's where I met that cute little billy goat who I used in my woodcut tutorial. Yes, that's what it's called. Wheeler Farm. Okay, let's get some more of that Viridian in there. Especially in the eye. We got to work on the eye, everybody. So I'm using straight Viridian. Yeah, this got really dull last time. Basically, what I'm after right now is smaller strokes. Let's see, I'm doing glaze right now. The Viridian's going over some of the eyeball. And I can come in here with the Viridian and do a glaze that emphasizes the eyelid a little bit better. Hope you guys in the Discord are having a good time. I just love that we can paint together from all over the world. A lot of students will talk to me about what they want to do, getting a job and stuff like that. And certainly you can create a goal like that. But there's so many jobs that didn't exist a long time ago. I mean, YouTube was not a career, although I guess a lot of kids now want to be YouTubers. I had a family member who said that, you know, at school they always say, oh, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said that so many kids said, I want to be a YouTuber. it's definitely ingrained in the culture now in a way that it never was before. I really should be more expressive with the brushwork. Okay, let's do it. Because this is sort of textured, I really want to show the brushwork a little bit better. Like that. Get something that's a little bit coarser looking. Something where my brushwork is a little more visible. And then, this is really fun. You can put down those strokes, but then lift them like this. And that gives it a little bit more of a surface, which I like. So I want to do more of that, where there's a brushiness to the way things get articulated. Because especially this eyelid needs to be way more pronounced. Need more Viridian. So speaking of the career thing, tell me, whatever industry you're in, what are some of the changes you've seen in your industry over the years? Because even what we think of today as being graphic design is not what graphic design was a long time ago. Now graphic design is mostly done all on computers. There weren't computers at a certain point. I mean, I can say oil painting hasn't really changed very much, but social media has changed a lot for artists. I think certainly there are a lot of things I don't like about social media, but I do think it has leveled the playing field for a lot of artists in a way that was not the case before. I mean, being an artist still is very much about who you know in a lot of cases, but I definitely have seen people who are creating opportunities for themselves that would not have existed otherwise. And that's very exciting. I think that's really a wonderful thing. Up here, I'm going to get a little brushier. That's what I'm missing. I felt like everything was really gooey wet on my painting, and I didn't like that. So that's what we're going to try to do today. Some stuff that's a little bit coarser. Because I know sometimes it feels like, oh, skin is so smooth, but in a lot of cases it's not. And then if you think about how people have freckles and all kinds of other shifts in their skin pigmentation, that also changes things a lot. Or even, I was thinking, I haven't played an orchestra for a really, really long time, but I think it's hilarious that when I was in high school, we had these gigantic, well, they weren't gigantic, well, some of them were actually. For a tuner, I had this big tuner. It was like that big, and it was really expensive. It was like $100. And that's what we used to tune our instruments. Now they're using a tuning app. I'm like, why are you serious? Like, we're calling you tuning app now. Like that sort of cracks me up. I think that's really funny. And I guess with artists, there's also new materials that didn't exist. Water mixable oils didn't exist a long time ago. And then, of course, there's digital art, which came along and is a gigantic industry now. So while I think it's fine to think about what you may want to go into, I think, first of all, it's sometimes hard to know what it actually is like. Like, you really have to talk to somebody who's deep in the industry. But also that by the time you're done with school, sometimes it's just the field is like unrecognizable in some cases. It's got some more texture with that Viridian. Ow, this brush is all hard. Okay, let me take a photo of my palette so all of you can see. I mean, mostly I'm just using cadmium red light and Viridian. I'm not really doing that much else right now. But I'll shoot a couple close-ups so all of you can see what's happening with the glazing and also in the hand. And I know with AI, a lot of people are very worried about certain jobs being replaced. There's always going to be those kinds of changes, no matter what industry you're in. Okay. Okay, I remember. We're going just with Viridian. Remember, we're doing Viridian glazes. This brush, it's one of my stiffer brushes. So I'm going to use it because I want to be able to get some coarser textures up here. Oh my God, that was too much. Too much brush stroke. That's too green. It's like Christmas tree green. Oh, maybe I'll put some maroon over it. Maybe that's it. I'm not going to give up on you, Viridian. I'm just going to blend you in a little more because you're too visible. Shoot, now I just got rid of it. Let's wipe out some of that red. I feel like that red's a little disruptive. Maybe if I just smear the Viridian around, it won't be so disruptive. Yeah. Especially the eyebrow. I just want something a little coarser looking. Ooh, I like that. Oh, okay, that's cool. A little bit more Viridian. Well, I think it's fun to do all kinds of mixing and stuff like that. Sometimes I do like just using like one or two colors. It just is a little easier. And especially because I'm glazing now, I don't have to like mix a lot of colors. Maybe next part I will, but right now I'm super focused on just cleaning up a lot of the drawing, which I think did get very messy. I'm sure this part looks very black to all of you right now, but it is a very deep, dark green that we're looking at. And again, I'm going to work some of the paint out of my brush because I don't want something that has a lot of paint. And that might help me here. Because I think what I'm missing, I don't have a lot of tension in this piece. Like I said, it feels gooey, which I don't like. Again, I'm going to take a plain brush and I'm just going to dip it into oil medium and I'm just going to use it to scrub around some of this stuff. move this around a little more. I'm also going to take a little bit of a rag, move this around. I do need more highlight here, but I'm trying to get the other parts a little stronger. It needs too much work at this stage for me to get in there. Yeah. Like I really need the coarseness of his skin to come across. You'll see with the glazing, there's a lot of back and forth. It's like I'll put it down the glaze, I'll wipe it up, I'll put it back. That is very much how I do my glazing. So glazing is not always additive. It certainly can be putting it down and then removing it entirely. Ooh, I'm sort of happy with that. This red up here, it's a little dense, so I'm taking my rag to wipe that up. I want more of this, though. I feel like... just apart from the reference a little bit more. Get a little crazier with this. Move this over so you guys can see a little better what's going on. So we're going to do some more textured strokes up here. And I'm going to pick a few spots to put some darker red to articulate more, draw some of the wrinkles, and then I'll do more texture. Oh, you know, I should add some Viridian up there. Oh, and here too, this is getting really light. I need that. Oh, that helps the nose. Okay, good. All right, I think I know what I'm going to do. Let's take a very brushy red. I need to hold it more at the end. Even this, I think I was holding it like this, is not the same as holding it like this. I think this is more what I want. That'll help me move my brush some more. Okay, let's see. Because I think I'm exerting too much control over it. And again, going in and lifting with the rag. And then let's get a touch of Viridian. I mean, the Viridian is basically just here to get me the value that I want with the red. And it's working okay. I mean, up here you can see a little bit of the green. And I do want to do more. I feel like I lost some of that Viridian that I want. So actually, let's do that before I forget. So I want this brushiness. Guys, isn't this a great way to spend a Friday evening? I was watching this show with my kid. Has anybody here watched Shameless? It's very not safe for work. But anyway, I was watching it with my kid yesterday, and there was a scene where they go to a club. My kid's watching it, and she's going, why do people want to do this? Like, what is so fun about going to a club? Like, she couldn't understand why anybody would want to do that. I'm like, well, you're asking the wrong person. That is not my cup of tea. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys are hardcore clubbing people, but that was not my existence. I mean, I went to a few when I was in like high school and college, but yeah, those days are over. Oh, I'm happy with the eyelid. Let me take a photo and let's see what's happening in the Discord. Oh, yay. Oh, I love glazing. It just feels so good. putting these into the Discord. All right, let's see what's happening in there, and then we'll take a look at comments. All right, we're in the Art Alongs channel. These are some of the photos I just took, so you can really, really see the brushwork. Oh, that's so fun. Butter is trying a new pen pastel. Whoa. Oh, I saw something earlier, Butter, and I think you are here in the chat, Butter. I'll bring this up if I can find you. Anyway, Butter had another piece. Oh, this is it. Butter says, my hand decided to start my portrait sketch tonight with scribbles. Oh, how fun. Okay, so Butter has the scribble and then put the pan pastel on top. The other cool thing is that some of you may have seen Butter did another pan pastel portrait earlier on. This is a similar approach, but look at how disruptive this line is and how every bit of the pan pastel Butter, I'm guessing, that you put on becomes a reaction to this line. And that's why I'm interested when we throw these things down on the paper that are not so obviously about the portrait, this becomes an interaction between two things. That is really great to see. Remember, if you come in here and you post your art along stuff, I will share it on the stream. Lisa says, using Crayola oil pastels, Ken's crazy grimace. Let's see. I love the texture in the neck. Look at this. This must be you scraping away, right, Lisa? Yeah, I can see over here that's been scraped. And then up here, we're seeing more these blended spots. And here it gets very direct and very chunky. I mean, I love stuff like this. I know this is very anal retentive, but when I see a moment like this, it's like, oil pastel. It's really showing itself off for us. Anna says, working on some marker and colored pencil drawings while on vacation. Okay, let's take a look. Nice. And I'm going to zoom in because some of you may have seen Anna's work. A lot of this is marker, but I believe some of these strokes that are the more detailed lines, those are the colored pencil parts of the image. So here's another one. Yeah, so like this white stuff you guys are seeing here, that's all colored pencil on top of marker. And Salinas is working on the Art Dare. Nice. For those of you who don't know what the Art Dare is this month, it is to design wallpaper. And this is really coming along. I like the neutrally yellow ochre, and then this dark orange is a really nice contrast. It really pops because of all the green that's happening in there. And if you're doing the Art Dare, hang out in the Art Dare's channel where we can post our progress. Great. Yes, Lisa says, took the scrapping and smearing across them for his neck for texture. Fantastic. Remember, everybody, put question in capital letters, and I'm happy to take your question. Oh, we've got one here from Val. Is it a good idea to major in art with the main goal to simply be taught the drawing and painting fundamentals with in-person instructors? I'm currently enrolled in an associate's program that focuses a lot on the fundamentals, which I'm enjoying, but I'm hesitant if I truly want to go all the way and make a living solely on my art. People take classes for all kinds of reasons. Just because you major in art, nobody says you have to be somebody who's a full-time artist later. I just think there's so many ways to be creative. You don't have to be creative the way you are in your classes. For example, one of my students who's graduated was a textiles major. She called me up a couple years later and said, well, I'm sort of frustrated with textiles. I don't really like the job that I have right now, but I have this thing, like I sort of want to be a pastry chef. But she had a lot of hesitation about it because she had done this degree in textiles and had all the training. And I said to her, go be a pastry chef. Like, you can use all that you know about textures and colors and I was like, go for it. You don't have to be making paintings on canvas to be creative. That's something that I think is brilliant. And I think it's fun when people study one thing, apply it to something else. I think that's extremely common. Brandon's asking, I'm intimidated to get back into figure drawing, so I wanted to practice anatomy for comic characters. Is this a good substitute for practicing anatomy? I mean, if it's helping you right now, because I find what a lot of us need, we need an entry point, something that gets us back into things. So let's say, for example, you're in an art rut. You haven't been painting very much, and you just want to do something that gets you back in. Maybe you want to just do some paintings where you're just playing around. There's nothing specific in your mind. There's no outcome you're looking for. I had a drawing teacher freshman year who, I'm not joking, would say to us, okay, make marks. And we did that for 6 hours. You think, how do you sustain that for 6 hours? Well, it becomes playtime. It's time to just try whatever. And I found that extremely liberating because I was used to drawing things that were very recognizable. Like if I drew a skeleton, I wanted it to look like a skeleton. But he would bring in the skeletons and be like, make marks. And we're like, what? It's great. Whatever entry point works for you, do it. Tracy loved Shameless. My kid is obsessed with that show. And it's so like raunchy and over the top. 10,000 Crows says it's Friday night and we're here. I think it's safe to say we are not hardcore party people. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is a Haniwa. How many of you guys have heard of the Haniwa sculptures before? They are terracotta sculptures, and I saw them at the Tokyo National Museum. And we do have a video of my visit. Just look up Art Prof Tokyo. You will find it. But yes, they had a little plush. I couldn't resist. It was in the gift shop. Jeffrey's asking about the substance. As soon as I saw this painting in my feed, I heard that crazy noise from the movie. I haven't seen it, but it's gotten some good reviews. And I think Demi Moore won the Golden Globe recently. Welcome, DT, to the live stream. Love it when all of you are here. Knock Need says studies have shown that drawing enhances one's ability to articulate desires, anxiety, joy, and concerns through language instead of using a gun. More art in school. I think everyone should have a sketchbook. I don't think sketchbooks should just be for artists. I think it would really help a lot of people to doodle out different things that they are thinking about. Knock Need is saying, how many brushes have you used in this painting so far? Okay, let's see. Looks like, okay, so this one is for the Viridian. This one is for the cadmium red light. This is the darker cadmium red light. This one's cadmium red glaze. Here's a small one with Viridian, medium one with Viridian. This brush here, this one I just put oil medium in it, and I just use it to move brush around, although it probably has some paint in it now. And I think this one's Viridian. That's another thing, is if you don't try to paint with every single color, it's a lot easier. I mean, there's just 2 colors, and I have many brushes. I'm also trying to avoid having to clean my brushes all the time because for me, that just ends up disrupting some of the process. DJ Poopy says, I've been a plumber for 20 years and poo still goes downhill and hot is still on the left. I love that certain things just the same. Fantastic. Alexandria says, I started in print graphic design, but moved to web development and print. Oh, graphic design, I think, is a fascinating field. And I wish I had time because I was reading just a little bit about typography and some of the things that they think about when they're designing fonts. And oh my gosh, I would love to do a deep dive on history of graphic design. I think that would just be so fun. Susan was a forensic artist for 20 years. Computers are taking over that to a degree. Actually, I have a friend who worked with the Smithsonian, and they had him sculpt this particular person. I think it was some primitive person, and it was based on the forensics and all their research, and it was so cool. And he was doing actual clay sculpture. Brittany says, I just feel being a YouTuber is not going to make me enough money to be able to live on my own currently. Oh, I don't think many people can do that. I can't do it. We do not have remotely enough revenue from YouTube for that to happen. And actually, YouTube revenue is definitely not one of our biggest revenue streams at all, remotely. So I think that most people cannot do that. That's not common. June says, there's no way I can be consistent in art right now. It's been 41 years since my sisters and I have been together for Christmas, and our relatives are getting together to see us. Oh, that's so lovely, June. That is so wonderful. Jen says, I work at Michael's. Yesterday, a girl came to me and said, I'm starting an oil painting for AP art. I don't know where to start. And I was like, how much time do you have? I got her started, then told her to watch this channel. I love it, Jen. I know. I always, when I talk to people and they ask me big questions like that, here's another teaching thing. It's almost like in my head, I have to rank what I can tell them because sometimes, especially if you're teaching people who are just getting started, I mean, there's everything. But the thing is, you can't teach them everything. You have to figure out, okay, what is the thing that is easiest for them to absorb in this moment that is going to be the highest impact. And it's very different depending on every person. Sometimes I talk to people, and even though composition is such an important skill, I don't talk to them about it until I feel that we've resolved other things that will make the composition easier to explain. Remember, get your questions into the chat. Put the word question in caps, and that will make it a lot easier for me to see that. DT is asking, I'm ready to launch my website, but I feel like an alias would be more easy to remember. I don't have a following. What would you do? I can't make up my mind on this. Well, here's an example. I was posting an Instagram reel, and it had an artist in it who was in one of our reels like way, way back, months and months ago. And I kept trying to remember it. And I had to tag this person in several different places. Every single time, I could not remember what it was. That's a big problem. If people can't remember, say, your Instagram handle or your website, it can be just like an extra thing. that makes it so it's harder for people to share your work or to tell people about it. I don't know if this is your real name or not. I mean, you don't have to tell me, but I do think if you can use your real name, that's great. Or if you can even find something that is short and easy. For example, some of you may have seen we had to stream with Jarrett Krasowska, who's a very successful illustrator. I still cannot pronounce or spell his last name. It's complicated. And he was so smart. He made all of his media Studio JJK. And I can always remember that. It's so easy. That's very important because if you have a complicated last name, you can't always count on people remembering that. In terms of alias, I don't know if you mean some other name instead of your real name, but I do think if you want to work professionally, it is important to use your real name. But again, that's totally your call. Another thing, everybody, because I think some of you may have been seeing in the news that TikTok is probably going to get banned, is this problem now. All these media companies are going haywire. TikTok is probably going away. Meta's going through a lot of things. And I used to tell people, oh, you're okay if you just have Instagram. And I've totally changed my mind. I think the two things that are guaranteed for artists is an email list and a website. And now I'm changing my advice and saying, listen, if you do anything, do those two things because Instagram cannot take that away from you. I mean, we had our Instagram account, we lost it for a little while. We were lucky enough that I think we were able to make a big enough splash online to get it back, but we just don't know. I would highly recommend if you don't have website, email list, and you want to work professionally, something to refer people to, those are the two things I would get on top of right now because we just don't know. I mean, I feel for those people who had their whole businesses based on TikTok. And that's another reason why you shouldn't just be on one platform. We're lucky that YouTube is very much our home base. And I know a lot of people are now coming to YouTube because of the TikTok thing. Olive says, do you use your family as figure drawing warm-ups? I feel like my brother is often the victim of my quick warm-up drawings because of how weirdly he sits most of the time. Oh, all the time. Actually, I was really bored at this family thing, and my nephew was in a blanket, huddled, playing video games in his pajamas. And he barely moved. It was great. Like when people play video games, they really don't move that much. I'll sometimes sketch my spouse or my kids. They're sitting on the couch. Sometimes breakfast, I'll do a sketch. I think it's fantastic. And that really is an amazing way to get better at figure drawing. I know a lot of times we associate figure drawing with, oh, you have to draw the nude. You don't. You can absolutely sketch people in real life. Jen, I was so overwhelmed. Okay, you know what somebody asked me in an art club voice session today? I just love when people challenge me this way. They said, what is your definition of art? I forget what the second one was. Oh my God, you guys, I am having a senior moment. Anyway, I mean, how many of us feel like we can define art? And so actually, before I tell you my answer, I would like you to tell me, what is your definition of art? Because that's the type of thing I will never come onto a video and say, this is what art is, because everybody has their own definition. But I'm very curious. And then I'll tell you when I stop painting again, what the answer was that I gave the person. Okay. This is finally starting to get fun. We're going to get back into, I'm really, really happy with the Vereen right now. It's solving all my problems. The ultramarine blue, it was like looking really dull for some reason. All right, let's get back up here. Because this I do think is not quite enough. This should be more exaggerated. Oh, that feels great. Oh, I'm so happy. So happy to have a dry painting to come back to. Actually, let me zoom in because I think I'm going to work on that forehead for a little while. Maybe this will help you guys see a little better. You guys can see the detail a little bit better. Okay, I'm using my coarse brushes, by the way, everybody. This is the fun part. It only took me, what, 8 hours to get to the fun part? I was talking to somebody who was in the recent realistic painting workshop, and they were telling me how frustrated they were getting with the acrylics. And I assured them, I said, listen, it's so much slower than anyone could ever anticipate, that I just don't think people realize. It's like, I don't know. I think if you show it to people and you're like, yes, that's 8 hours of painting. It's like people are like, that's it? That's all you did in 8 hours? I'm like, yes. Welcome to my life. What would you guys say is your average for working on an artwork? I think for painting, it's like at least 20 hours for me. Probably more. Depends on the complexity of the piece. Oil painting, that is. Watercolor's a lot faster. I think watercolor, it's more like 3 hours. I mean, again, it depends on the complexity, but in general, watercolor, 3 or 4 hours, I feel like I can do it. All right, let's move to some of the wrinkles. I think the wrinkles are not happening right now. I'm going to do little touches of Viridian, but I'm also going to do that thing where I get some of the paint out of my brush. I think in general, a common issue that a lot of people run into with painting is having too much paint on their brush, because that certainly was something that tripped me up a lot. I think especially when it came to watercolor, I always had too much on my brush, and it was something that made my paintings a little bit too blobby in the beginning. So this I'm being a little scrubby with it because I want that dry look. I mean, I love lifting the glaze with my hand. It just, oh, so fun. Love it. All right, we need to get more definition in the eyelid. I mean, I distorted the eyelid a lot. It's sort of a mess right now, but whatever. We'll figure it out. Gosh, that cadmium red, it really looks like it's very yellow. But I'm happy to keep this simple because I can do these two colors right now. And then once this has dried, I can go back in and do another pass of glazes, but this time with a different color. Here, the lower lid, I had to change the contour of the face to get this in place. Oh yeah, okay, that's better. God, I didn't spend any time on these hands. Now I'm paying for it. I really want to add some highlights, but I just think it's too soon. Even though it's kind of killing me to not have highlights in a couple of these spots. All right, and the eye down here, I really did not touch it. But we'll use some Viridian to get that in. I mean it, that I just think painting's not that fun until you're deep into things. It's like now I can finally paint things well. In the beginning, you're just smushing things around. The nose really, oh God, the nose is a wreck. By the way, I think, Lisa, you were the person I was talking to today in an art club voice session. We do a lot of those, by the way. That's where like all my ideas and thinking starts, with a lot of the art club voice sessions, because we talk about such a great range of topics. But one thing, Lisa, and maybe Lisa, you can correct me if I'm saying it incorrectly, but that a lot of artists do end up teaching. I'm wondering here, how many people have taught in addition to being an artist? How many people might want to teach at some point, and who here has no interest? Because I do think teaching helped me a lot, helped me solidify a lot of things, because it's one thing to understand something, but it's another when you got to explain it to people. And I've actually done demos where I would just do the thing. I was having so much trouble explaining it to everyone else because it was just automatic. Like it's like breathing. I just do it. And thinking about, oh, well, how do I break this down so somebody understands it, was actually very difficult. All right, we're going to go in. You'll also notice the rag I'm using is very small, because I had a couple times during the painting marathon where I had a really big rag and I just ended up like sloppily going over everything. I think I want more articulation on the eye. Still feels a little thin to me. I think it's here. Like I'm sort of missing. There's this one little patch. I don't like that. Let's take that away. Oh, okay. I need some more red up here. Oh, the oil paint feels really juicy and wonderful right now. You know something? I think I have to mix some highlight. Actually, no. I think I want to work up here. Let's go back to where I was before I got totally off track. Because he has super pronounced wrinkles. And I want some of that, but I also don't want it to look like I just drew lines on his head, which is very easy for that to happen. Well, I was telling Lisa during the voice session that I used to get all the tea on the professors at RISD because the artist models told me everything. It was great. It was like getting all of the juicy gossip on all the teachers, because think about it, if you're a model and you're sitting there staying still for the class, I mean, you get to hear a lot of things. It's pretty cool. Oh, I'm missing. Oh, okay. Here we need some more. It's way too much yellow, and the blue's bothering me too. So I'm just going to add some basic lines, and we'll pull some of those areas out. I am going to mix a little bit of white with some of the cadmium red because I need to figure out the edges of some of these spots. It'll help me with some of the wrinkles. Yeah, that blue really needs to go. Oh, that's way too much. I'll get rid of that. Ah! Drop my rag. I am happy to report I did spill my brushes again right before the live stream. Like, wow, this is getting to be a rite of passage. Spill my brushes. I need more prominent lines. I feel like the lines are getting a little lost. Let's just get a few that are a little bit more pronounced. I can always get rid of them if it's not working. Viridian's my good friend today. I'm very happy with you, Viridian. Making a lot of things work for me today. I will say when I first started teaching that I felt for a very long time like I was just repeating things that professors had told me. And it took me a long time to really feel like I had my own voice as an artist and as a teacher. Probably took me about 4 years before that started to happen. And I think that's a totally legit way to start as a teacher. I mean, I think like anything, the best way to learn is to watch somebody who's really good at it do it. I think that's the case for anything. I feel like my professor, Nick Palermo, I feel like he really taught me how to work with models. I mean, how would I have known that before coming to art school? And I just saw how supportive and clear he was working with the models, and I really enjoyed that. So I really took his ethos when it came to that. I gotta step back. I think it's up here. I think this needs to be. Because I like the brushiness that I have over there. I feel like that's what I'm missing in a bunch of spots. I do want to show my brushwork more. It's just right now I'm doing a lot of cleanup. I will get there. Yeah, that was bad. Maybe I should pivot. Need a mark here. That's bad. It got really sloppy up there. I really like that. I think I do need to mix a highlight. All right, in case you missed it, this is what my palette is looking like. You can see cadmium red light, viridian, and a little bit of white. That's pretty much all I'm using. I guess I did put a little alizarin crimson in here, but this is very much cadmium red light and viridian. All right, we're going to mix up a highlight. Yeah, I'm glad I'm using, like, this brush is really stiff, but I think it'll be very good for when I want to get that brushy quality. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who have taught, tell me what you have taught, what subjects. I will say, having taught many things, sculpture is the worst. I feel bad saying that because I do love teaching sculpture, but there's just so much technical stuff. I had a figure class where I taught the students how to make a waist mold with plaster, and that was the hardest thing I have ever taught in my life. That was rough. Oh my God. That was really, really difficult. I'm going to do, you know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try a light green highlight. Because usually I do blue and yellow, but let's do like a pale green. Oh my gosh. I'm so curious how that's going to work. Whoa, I've never done that before. Okay, that's the color that I just mixed up. Pale green, I think is already too dark though. I'm going to add a lot more white into it, and let's see how that works. I want something that is mostly white. Not a lot of green. Ow. Reaching back. Drawing, I think I love teaching the most. I think it's just, drawing is very much my language. I do like teaching printmaking, but my only thing about printmaking, it's so technical that most of your day is saying things like, yeah, wipe that cheesecloth 3 times with gum arabic. Oh, you used too much of the V-etch lacquer. Make sure you use less of it next time. So it does end up being a lot of that technical stuff. In drawing, I found, because you don't have those kinds of technical challenges, that you really do have the opportunity to get into the concepts and the ideation. I found in printmaking and in sculpture, there isn't a lot of room for that, unfortunately. Okay, I'm going to try a bigger brush. I'm going to see how this, God, I don't know if this is going to work, but let's try. So this is a very pale green. Looks blue. Maybe I should add more. Well, let me see. Yeah, it looks very blue. Okay, that's a little trail, and now I'm going to smudge some of that in to the glaze. Oh yeah, that's fun. Oh, and I do need a small brush. Actually, I should clean this brush. So I have a silicoil tank, and this just has that safflower oil that Gamblin makes for solvent-free oil painting. And so I'm just taking this here, and I'm just bouncing it on top to clean it. And now it's full of safflower oil. And I'm just going to take my rag and clean it like that. Okay, I really, really want to fix that eyelid. That eyelid's driving me a little crazy right now. And make that a little more substantial. And up here too, there's a little... I want to use this brush. This brush is a lot coarser. I think that the brush I had earlier was a little bit too smooth. I'll tell you what I don't like to teach. I mean, I've barely done this, but for RISD pre-college, I did teach art history a few times. I like art history, but I don't like grading papers. Grading papers takes forever. That is something I don't want to do in general. So yes, not my favorite thing. Okay, so we're going to roughen up some of that stroke. Now I'm going to work some of the paint out of my brush. And actually, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to sort of scrunch up like this. I'm going to make it really scrappy. So that way I can come in, create something that looks a lot brushier. Ah, that's better. All right, let's add some of this green. You know, maybe I'll try the darker green. I thought the darker green was going to be too dark, but it might actually be okay. Oh yeah, I do like the darker green. I'm sort of surprised. I thought it was going to be too green, but I guess not. You don't really know until you try. It's too much. Let's pull that down a little bit. Gosh, it's almost been 2 hours. I feel like I've barely done anything. All right, this is definitely helping. Oh yeah, I'm glad I did that. Okay, good. Oh yeah, that definitely helps. Okay, so it turns out that this green was the better green. This green was too light. You never know. Let me take a photo so people can see what that palette looks like. Because there's a pretty big difference. And I will put that in the Discord. Here, let me do a close-up of the nose. If you guys look at the nose in the Discord, you'll see how green it is. Okay, let's work on some of the brush work up here. I think it's a little bit too smooth for my taste. And by the way, everybody, I'm not really looking at my reference. I'm barely looking at it. It's not really something I'm thinking about much right now. Gosh, this might be all I work on today. I was hoping that, oh, I'd make so much progress, but as we all know, it doesn't really work that way all the time. Okay, now we're going to go in and do another pass of some of the reds because the highlights got a little bit too big. So now I'm coming in to bring some of those red strokes back. Oh, yeah. Okay, now we're going to come in with some of that pretty dark maroon. And we're just going to pick a couple spots to make more clear. Some spots that are a little bit better defined. I need a little more blending. Let me clean this brush. Okay, I'm just going to do a little bit of blending up here. And that pulls together a couple of those spots. And now a little bit of dark red with a little bit of viridian. Okay, another pass of the light green. Ooh, shoot, that is like way too much. Ugh, that is not what I wanted. Although, I don't know, I kind of like that now. Maybe I'll keep that. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of cool. All right, let's see what people are saying in the chat. I'll also take a photo of this one spot I'm working on so people can see better how thick that paint is. Okay. And I will also check on the Discord as well. All right. I'm trying to make my mic stand a little tighter. Okay, that's better. Let's take a look at the Discord. I would love to see what people are doing. Wow, so much progress. From Silver Song, this is not going to be one of my average paint times. Oh, but look at how beautiful that is. Such immaculate. Like, that's a beautiful wash, Silver Song. Keep going. Who cares if it took you a long time? You're getting gorgeous gradients. Nice work, Silver Song. Oh my gosh. Butter, this is so fun. You're getting to really know those pan pastels. And Butter, I'm wondering if you might consider going back in and adding some new lines, because one thing that I like is we have the two really layered on top, but sometimes I think it's fun to do almost like a sandwich approach to the peas. Might be fun to try that out. All right, let's see what people are saying in the chat. Brian says, I'm not sure I could be a teacher, though being an art teacher sounds like fun. For me, the big difference, I just don't want to grade papers. As long as I don't have to grade papers, I am totally fine. And I also don't like giving exams. So that's why I would be better as an artist. George says, seeing what a master does is good. Understanding why they do it is more important. I think so, because you can watch people do things, but if you don't know why they're making that choice, it's not as helpful in terms of learning. Chopper says, painting is passed on through in-person training and mentoring. I wonder how much of the little points and techniques have been lost over time. I guess I like to think about it as an idea that evolves, that my professors had a certain way of saying things. Fundamentally, I am teaching similar things, although not always. but I have my own voice in terms of how I say it. Certainly, there are things like particular techniques or ways of using materials that unfortunately are gone because there aren't enough people to keep them going. And that I think is really frustrating because it depends on the thing, but sometimes there's just circumstances where it's not able to be passed on. And that I think is difficult. We also have Val, who says, "Well, I don't think I'll be an art teacher anytime soon. I noticed that the best way for me to approach self taught art is to act like I'm my own professor, guiding myself on what I need to improve." That's a really important mindset that you have, Val, because I think it's very hard to confront your weaknesses, to say, okay, that is a thing I am not good at. Now I'm going to work on it because it's just more fun to work on the things that we know we're good at. We get good results. It feels good. Confronting your weaknesses is difficult. And I think that is absolutely one of the most efficient ways to learn. Because if you just spend all day painting the stuff you're good at, you're unlikely to try those new things. Jen says, "I've been told that my local art center is always looking for people to teach, and I've considered it. Nervous though. But then again, anytime anyone has an art question at Michael's, they ask me, so I'm getting my practice. Oh, you should try it." Or another thing, if people here are interested in doing a class, instead of doing a full out class, just try to teach a workshop somewhere. Sometimes if you just do a 1 day thing, it can be, number one, less intimidating, and also you don't have any commitment. I would recommend trying something like that. Alexander seems pretty confident I would be a terrible teacher. Oh, Sarah's a middle school art teacher. Oh gosh, middle school. Wow, kudos to you. They're difficult. But I will say something. I think a long time ago, I used to think, oh, I hated middle school as a kid. No way I ever want to teach it. But you know what I like about middle school is that compared to high school, they're still willing to be silly. I think a lot of high school students don't want to be silly at a certain point. JJ says 5 hours because I usually give up in the ugly phase. Oh, we've all hit that rough patch. It's not fun, but you got to just keep on because I don't know that this painting has hit an ugly phase yet, as much as it's just so mushy that I'm having trouble finding anything to grip onto. Oh, cool. We have a lot of art definitions. Taraboo says, "I would say art is a visual representation of my state of mind." Alexandria says, "Art is communication on visual, audio, spiritual, and tactile level." Selena says, "For me, art is emotional processing." All right, I'll tell you what my answer was. My definition of art was just human expression because I guess when I was reading it, the way I heard the question was arts, not just visual art. And I think ultimately that's what dancers do. They express themselves physically. That's what a musician does. They're expressing something with their instrument. And for us, it's the same way. We're expressing something. And the thing is, what we express, there are a billion ways to talk about that. And sometimes it's more communication, the way I had a professor when I first switched to illustration, he defined illustration as, quote, visual communication. And I don't think that's the same thing as expression. I think expression can be communication, but communication to me means you've got concrete information trying to pass it on to somebody. But expression can be something that's actually very confusing. Somebody might look at your painting and go, I don't really know what this is about, but you're the one expressing it. That was my definition. And I'm sure it'll change. Give it a month. It'll be different. Val is asking, do you have tips on storing finished sketchbooks? I'm afraid of throwing them away, but I do live in a small home and anxious about them taking up too much space. I mean, if you have to throw them away, that's not something that is bad. I get it. I mean, things get really cluttered. But I will tell you that I really do try hard to hold on to my sketchbooks, because to me, they are almost a visual documentation of my life. And for that reason, I really like them. But if it's a storage issue, I mean, just how much can you pack into that drawer? Sometimes that's all it is for me. We have another question from Brandon. I want to do the 2500 challenge, wanted to try it in pen. Wanted your opinion if this is a good idea. Sure. I mean, the 2500 challenge, Jordan has put together material on his recommendations and what he thinks would work best, but do it in whatever media you want. That's totally fine. And you can switch. You can say, oh, okay, for a week, I'm going to do in pen. Okay, next week, I'm getting tired of the pen. I'm going to do some pencil. It's very free form in terms of how you want to do it for yourself. Giselle says, I had art history in college, taught art periods, and still remember parts of it. Ionic, Doric, and Corinthian. Yes, I had an art history professor at RISD pre-college. She just said that over and over again. I was like, okay, Ionic, Doric, and Corinthian. Like, we had it perfectly mesmerized. Chopper's asking about a watercolor painting. Best place to share them. If you just want to share it for inspiration, you can just share it. For example, if we go into the Discord, a lot of people are here in general chat quite a bit. And so this is a place where a lot of people will share, for example, pictures of their studio or things that they're interested in. That's a good place, but you can also add moderator. If you don't know where to put something, that's totally fine. Okay, let's do a little bit more work. I think especially on the hand, I want to pull back on some of the stuff I added. So like up here, I just want to work the glazes in some more so they don't look too prominent. I mean, it needs a lot of work. Mostly I'm doing it so I can smooth out some of the edges. So the glazes are here, but I don't need them to be so prominent. Okay, I want to do a little bit more Viridian. I'm not even looking at the reference, by the way, everybody. I'm just painting. I'm just going to move some of these things around. I think especially up here, where he still has very pronounced wrinkles. I mean, they almost look like they hurt, but I suppose part of that is just me putting all the red all over him. But this is what I'm thinking, is that these areas are a little more textured. Oh, I still have way too much paint in my brush. Jeez. Well, actually, that brings up a good question, what somebody asked earlier about storing sketchbooks. Do people have really organized ways of storing their stuff? Because I always think I do, and I'll organize things, and then within a week, it's a mess. So I guess I'm capable of doing that, but it doesn't last. That's the issue. So tell me in the comments, are you somebody who really does truly organize your stuff? And does it last? Doesn't for me. Or have you given up on that? The painting marathon, I will say, really put a number on my storage situation. It's like everything's all over the place. So that's sort of a point where I'm like, whatever, it's not point. There's no point in doing that. Ooh, I like these brushy strokes. Oh, that feels good. Oh, I like that. Cool. See, I'm not always having an existential crisis on all my streams. Yeah. That's so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I mean, I didn't really get to do very much. I'm going to get... Okay, so I have this one brush, which is just a disaster. It's so coarse. I'm going to try something. I'm going to like really mess it up. Make it super coarse. Okay, watch this. We're just going to use this brush to roughen up things. Get things... That didn't work. Oh well. I was hoping it would. It did not. I like the stroke, but it's a little too dramatic. God, I love rags with glazing. It's just the greatest thing. So yes, no reference photo at this point. I'm just going off what I think would work for this. Let's get a little more cadmium red back there. Look at the back of the head. I should do some of that. I'm going to put it on pretty thick. Bring some of it into there as well. Ugh, got a little too big, that one stroke. Just going to bring it down a little. I'm going to let this be a little scrappier. Oh, that is fun. Oh my god, this is so fun, you guys. Oh my god, yay. See, this is the fun part. Like, you have to work so hard to get to this point. But it's amazing when you get to this point. Ugh. Spoke too soon. That spot got a little muddled now. Whatever. So many things I want to fix. that does feel really good. I am very happy with that forehead. Let's get a little bit. I think that my highlights are getting a little bit too much, so I need to push them down a bit. They're getting too contrasty. I don't want all that contrast. I think next time I work on this painting, I'm going to try to be more brushy. I feel like I was a little timid about that today, but maybe when I feel like the drawing is more clear, that'll be easier to do. All right, let's see what is happening in the Discord. Remember, we are in the Art Alongs channel. So Lisa is being challenged by Ken's grimace. I mean, it's a very intense grimace that he's making. I do really like this one blue spot, though. I mean, that's a pit of the neck. This, sweet. Loving that anatomy, Lisa. Sarah here. Started during the marathon. Happy with how it's coming out. Let's take a look. Wow, you made so much. Oh, I remember that you had added some of it, but I don't think I saw the top part and the lettering too. Oh my God, that is really detailed, Sarah. That's amazing. And we also have KC. Finally got myself to work on this flower. Forgot how long it takes to dry. Oh, I don't think you had done the petals before. Well, I really like this spot, Casey, where you have the line, but it's lighter. And then here it's a heavier line. I think you have some really nice variation in there. Like every line is a different value. Salinas, change the direction. Nice. I like how goopy some of the shapes are. They have a real movement. Like it really looks like a pattern that's moving. Let me post another photo of my palette and of the painting, and then I'll take a look at the comments that we have so far. It's been really nice to spend time on this. I know a lot of people do want me to finish these paintings. I'm like, okay, we might be doing paint-alongs that are like into June. So be careful what you wish for. And I'm going to zoom on a couple of the spots where I really spent a lot of time. And you can all see that a little bit better. And again, this is going into the Discord. All right, let's look at some of the comments people are making in the chat. Brainalicious says, when you talked about the art marathon and how you filled up your space so quickly, it made me reevaluate whether I want to start working larger. I do most of my work on 11 by 14 or smaller paper. I do think it's a good experience. I don't think everybody has to work big. Sometimes you just don't have the space for it. But if you have the space, I do think that when you work bigger, it's a shift of your approach because you can't draw the same way. And I have done pieces that were very large, taller than me, and those felt like, oh, it's like real physical engagement. So you have to ask yourself if you really want to do that. I didn't like it because I had to get on a stepladder to work on it, and that was sort of annoying. And I was like, oh, I don't think I want to do that anymore. But it's a good experience. I think that sometimes if you work bigger, the smaller work, you change your perception of that because all of a sudden you're like, wow, that's so small. Oh, by the way, I just want to pull this up because Blue Wolf just posted a buffalo in oil pastel. Oh, I love this. Oh, look at how fuzzy that is. Wow. Oh, and look at these highlights. It's very mild because this is a very muted gray. Oh, I love the softness, Blue Wolf. That is really cool. Okay, question from Sinead. How long are you live streaming today? Well, you're just going to have to find out. And Sinead says, glad I caught your stream. The painting's looking really good and well developed. Oh, good, because I look at it and I just am like, oh, there's like 60 hours more in here. And RM, I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge. Oh, I'm so happy. I mean, what's the point of having knowledge if you're not going to share it? Like, you guys know how there's so many artists, there's this sort of mystique, like they don't want to share any of those secrets. And I filmed some people once, and after I edited the video and everything, I sent to them for approval. And they're like, actually, we don't want to share this technique, which I understand. I mean, especially if you're a company, selling those secrets put you out of business. But I was like, you couldn't have told me that. Like, when I was like, just don't share this. Like, they had to wait until I'd shot all the footage, edited it. I was really annoyed by that. But anyway, it is really nice when people are able to share and able to help other people with what they are working on. Yes, Sinead, oil painting's a lot of work, which is why I know some of you guys are like, yeah, finish it. I'm like, I don't know. Are you guys going to get sick of that? Like just seeing the same painting for so long? Although next Friday, I think it's Friday, I'm going to be doing a demo using granulating watercolors, which I've never used before. So I'm very excited to try those. So we can certainly switch it up, but that figure painting you see in the back, I think I might like truly want to make that into a personal piece. I don't know yet. It's still a little shaky right now, but we'll have to see how that goes. Reminder to everybody, we have spaces in upcoming workshops like flowers and plants and watercolor, pets and animals, cloud landscapes, loosen up your art, creature design with Jordan, and also experimental printmaking. Join Art Club. This is a really fun hangout space in our Discord. You get weekly voice sessions with staff. I do very extensive critiques in there. You also get open studio sessions, and you do not have to follow the 3-to-1 critique rule that is in the public channels. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.